All right, welcome to the second edition, or as we call it, episode 01 of Terrascan Talks. My name is Sean O'Dell. I am extremely excited to be here with you today. And I am in lovely Fort Worth, Texas. And we are, it's actually a pretty big day for Terrascan. So I've got a couple of fantastic hosts, guests. We're going to have some demos. We're going to have a little bit of conversation about Terrascan. But first, I would like to congratulate the Terrascan community and the Terrascan team on a significant milestone. And that milestone is 2,000. That is 2,000 GitHub stars. That is a significant milestone. And just so you all can see it, I'm going to pull up the website. At this moment, there are 2,008 followers, stars on GitHub. So congratulations to the community. Thank you to all of you for your efforts, for your input, your GitHub issues, your PRs, the code commits, all of that. This is just a big milestone. If I could have champagne or confetti or fireworks or whatever you could imagine, this is just a fantastic milestone. So thank you. We cannot say thank you enough. Today is an exciting show. We're gonna have a couple of guests with us, and so I'm gonna go ahead and introduce them. The first guest I want to introduce is Sangam Berdar. He is actually one of my peers, and he is a teammate on the DevRel team here at Accurate. Sangam, welcome, sir.
Hey, welcome. Nice to be here in my first Terrascan talk, I will say, and excited to share the new features and talk about the cloud native security and Terrascan and bunch of new features and cool demos.
And Sangam, I would be the first one to say, man, this is not your first Terrascan talk. This is your first joint or joining the Terrascan Talks episode.
Yeah,
but you've actually been talking about. There you go. You have been all over the meetup circuit there in India, where you are based. And I know you've done you've been a major part of this. So I'm super glad you're on today. Glad you're giving the demo. And actually, Sangam, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Where obviously I said you're in India. Give us a little about who you are and why, maybe outside of the realm of Terrascan.
Yeah. So my name is Sangam. So I started my whole career with one of the famous tool and technology called Docker. And I'm a big fan of Docker, I will say that, and containerization. From the school time, I started researching on the how to containerize application, and that time Docker not exist, and I started doing the research work, and then I found something called Docker. That time
Very
it's
cool.
used to call as a dot cloud, and then I can say I'm a first user of. I have when I return of my first Docker file, I'm very excited to see this. You can package your application and ship, build, run anywhere. And I have written a lot of tutorial around it. I'm a Docker community leader, and I excited to say that I got award at DockerCon 2020, and that is the one of I can say the cloud native movement for me. And today we are going to see some of the Docker file feature which we have introduced in version 1.9, and not that much. We have a lot of improvement and lot of things for the community. So that's it. That's about me.
Awesome. Now, Sangam, thank you for your input, your participation, and I'm excited for the demo today. I think it's very fitting that you get to highlight Docker support. So I want to go ahead and introduce our third guest, Amir. I'm going to bring Amir in, and I did this kind of on purpose, maybe not on purpose, maybe by accident, but I actually just wanted to bring up the latest features of 1.9. And Amir, introduce yourself. Tell us what you do. Your how you work with and interact with Terrascan, and then why don't you tell us a little bit about 1.9?
Well, thanks, Sean. It's great to be here. So I'm Amir. I have been the head of open source at Accurix since November. pretty much leading the product and the engineering development of the project. And 1.9 is actually, it's exciting release for us, primarily because of Docker support. I think it's something that we wanted to do for a while, and it's great to finally, be able to support another type. Not only IAC, but just a whole new set of policies that will be really useful for whoever is using Terrascan, an environment where they have Docker files.
Very cool. And Amir, I know you and I will have a little bit of dialogue a little bit later on that subject and topic. So I'm excited about that. So let's get into some demo. Really, we want Terrascan to be all about demos and how you're using it and making it work in the real world. So Amir, you and I, we're going to bail out, and I'm going to turn it over to Sangam, and let's get into some action.
Hey, hello. So this is my screen, and before that, I will go to the official site of the Terrascan. You can go to run terrascan.io, and this is a website. And we have added some new cool feature called Docker. You can actually scan a Docker file, not only a Docker file locally. You can scan this as a server. Go to our documentation, and you see the command how to use it, and there is server mode. And using server mode, pretty much you can use a Docker uh, image or Terrascan image to scan Docker file or any kind of maybe that is a Terraform or Kubernetes manifest, any kind of cloud native manifest you can scan. And we have a very new feature, which is a Docker file support. We have already discussed about this, but you can scan pretty much anything in the cloud native space like Kubernetes, Terraform, and a lot of the resource we support. And today, before jumping, I want to just talk a little bit about what is Docker file and what and why we need this feature, and why this is very very important to have this feature in for the everyone, for the developer, for the SRE, for the any engineer. And security is very important concern. And I see the Terrascan is the leading tool that give all kind of feature. There is don't need to go use 5 to 10 tool. There is lot of tool in CNCF landscape, but you need one tool that can give a lot of feature. And I see this feature fulfill that cycle. And Docker file, little bit I will talk about the Docker file. Docker file is a text file which allow you, just like a bash script we used to write in the past world. But now this containerization is all the adoption is going on, and you can pretty much containerize your application, no matter that web app or any kind of application or any kind of application. So any developer can use this Docker file to build their container and push into the Docker hub. So this is the core, the first thing when you code something. And after that, this is the first step in the local development area, or the you build that image, you package those things. For the packaging those application, you need a Docker file. So I will showcase couple of Docker file best practices, and then we will see how you can use a Terrascan to scan this file and see the vulnerabilities and secure your Docker file more securely and more easily with the Terrascan. So first of all, I assume you already know what is the base image and the basic of the Docker file. So whenever you write a Docker file, choose the base image as a minimal and lightweight. So Alpine, one of the image is widely used over the developer or the companies. And this is one of the best practice. You can use the Alpine or minimal base image, just like a busy box. And next thing is, we build the image, we package those things. Basically what's happening here is pulling the Alpine image, and then running this command. And when you install any kind of packages top of this base image, or even in your local environment or operating system, just like Ubuntu, it's create some kind of cache packages, and we don't want that cache packages to, because it will create a bigger kind of image size, and there is a lot of security aspect also attached with that. So if you see here, we have a kind of, we need to remove. You can use the rm this kind of command cache. You can remove those things, or you can use the flag called dash dash no cache. So using these commands, you can remove unwanted packages. And one of the thing is developer do this kind of mistake in day-to-day life. Like they install multi-layer kind of thing, install so many packages top of Alpine. So what is happening behind, if you run this kind of Docker file, is that you have a layer. Docker will create a bunch of layers as it execute line by line, and it will create a more layer. So instead of creating a more layer, do this, use and it will give you the one layer kind of thing. So this is very important as a best practice. And we already use, everyone use a GitHub, and we use a git ignore file, right? We ignore some file when we uh, push into the GitHub, whatever your local repositories. Just similar to that, we have a Docker ignore. So I see a lot of the user or a lot of developer, what they do, they expose their secret, they expose their password, unwanted file, and they add into the Docker file or container. So to avoid that, use .docker ignore, which is similar to git ignore concept. And you can add like this: I don't want md file, I don't want pem file, security environment variables. So add those things in that, so it will not be added and you are more secure, right? One of the thing is that by default Docker run as a root, and when you run as a root, anybody can get access. So securing those things is very important. So you can always add a user, and we have added a user as a node app, so it will be more secure. And there is a bunch of other ways that you can do. Like you can practice this best practices using the linters and the VS Code extension. So you can use there is a two tools, which is Haskell and Docker linker in the VS Code. So you can use this thing to do a best practices. And when we like when we build the images using Docker build command, we try to do hard coded script to pass some kind of argument into that, but don't do that. That is not a good practice. But use argument and build your images. In this case, this is the example. Now I have created a version as an argument, and I pass that argument out when I build the Docker images. So when I build, I will pass that argument, and it will build that those images according to that. Now moving toward, now this is a best practice every developer do, and every developer try to do this thing. But you need some kind of tool that will make developer life easy, right? And that's why we bringing a Docker file support. And what you need to do, you need to do only 3 step. Okay, on if you are on Mac, you need to do only 3 step. Uh, the first step is install Terrascan. So it's very easy. You need to just fire a 3 commands. First command, I will, if you have homebrew package manager, go install homebrew and run the command brew install Terrascan. So what will happen? It will install a Terrascan. Now next step, you need to initialize whenever you install the new Terrascan. So it will get all those packages or policies needed in the cache. So do Terrascan in it, so you will not get any kind of error, right? And then you can do scan a Docker file, Kubernetes, and bunch of other things. So let's start. Let me go through the one of a file. I assume I'm not good at writing a Docker file, but I have written something. So let's scan this thing. So for that, you need to run uh, Terrascan scan dash I and then Docker. Now, by default, I am in this working directory. This is my working directory, and I have a bunch of file. When I run as it is, it will take a Docker file automatically because I am into that directory, right? So now, if you see, I have two Docker file here. One is Docker file go, one is just Docker file. By default, it will pick the Docker file. It will not pick another one. But you can use dash f flag. I will give a Docker file. So it will scan the perfect one. So if I scan this thing, what kind of violation I can get? So you see the ensure to avoid run with sudo command on the line number 14. I open this file now. I'm an engineer. I don't know anything. So I go, okay, what is saying? Ensure to avoid run with sudo. So I will do my best. I will remove the sudo and I will save this file and I will scan again. When I scan again, you will see the only like now we used to have more kind of error like 4. Now we have another kind of thing. So now here is another error like ensure range of the port is this. So I will reduce this by 2, so that error will be solved. So there are few, we have written a few policies to scan this thing. So when you scan this thing, now you have 2 only. Before you used to get 4. So it's very, you see, it's very helpful for the any, maybe it's a developer, maybe a security engineer, maybe you can add this into your pipeline, you can add into your gitops workflow. It's work everywhere and you can use as a Terrascan server, right? Now let's see few of the thing. Like let's see another Docker file because let's see this one Docker file. This is a Docker file from the Docker official site, Docker file best practices. So now I can scan this thing and I'm sure there is any violation or not. And if there is no violation, I will say this is a secure Docker file. So I will just change my file name here and I will scan again. And when I scan, there is no violation. This file is more secure. If you add any like apt like sudo command, so it will check the policies and it will give what the violation happening. So let's talk a little bit about the policies and how you can contribute or how you can write these policies, right? Now I have a bunch of policies. So this is a bunch of policies. This is written in Rego. Rego is one of the language to write policies, and you can write policies for any cloud native technology, not only the Docker. You can write for the Kubernetes. You can write for anything. Now here is a file I have. So I have written a policies. So this is a policy which look for the environmental variable. If I expose password, key, or some kind of secrets into the Docker file, if it's find out the environmental variable, it scan that and it will say, okay, I see this is a suspicious kind of environmental variable and fix this issue. And if you using the latest tag for the your base images, so it will give check that violation and it will give the what's happening. If you are using a tag to the image, so it's warn you. This is a warning and this is a deny message because this is something, if you run as a root or something, it will be a not secure. So it will give you, it scan all the policies. We have lot of policies and thanks to the kudos to the policy team, they are putting a lot of efforts. So let's, I will show you where to you can find these policies and how you can contribute to it. Okay, so let me change my screen now, and I will go to the Terrascan repo. So now I have a Terrascan repo. I will go to the package, and I will go to the policy oparego, and now you see bunch of policies, not for the Docker, but AWS, Azure, GCP, GitHub, and Kubernetes. Now I will go to the Docker, and I have policies with it. You can contribute policy if you know Rego language. It's very easy and easy to use, and anybody can write policies, I believe. And this is a policies where you can find, and there are rules also for the policies. When you scan this thing, it will give the description what kind of violation happening, and we have done this thing in our first Dockerfile demo, because ensure your range is between this thing. So it will scan these policies, and you can also contribute, no matter you are a Docker user, you are a Kubernetes, and secure your pipeline with this thing. Now I will move forward to the next demo, is that
Hey,
Kubernetes.
hey, Singham, real quick, since you talked about it, you mind going back to the issues on GitHub? Just to highlight, we actually have a PR. Sorry, go to PRs. Forgive me, I don't want to set issues. We actually have a PR. I guess it's the third from the top. That there's some additional policies for Docker coming, right? We want more, and I Singham emphasize it. I'm going to emphasize it. Hey, you have an idea for a policy with Docker? Let's go create one. Bring it on, and we'd love to have you contribute. So sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to highlight that, and back to you, Sangam.
Yeah, thanks for highlighting. And you see, anybody can contribute with PR. This is totally open source, and you just need to know that best practices, or you are doing a CSI benchmark. So if you are a security person, or you understand the Docker file, or you are just started learning a Rego, so this is a good place for you to make your first open source contribution. And moving to the Kubernetes demo, let's clear my terminal here, and I will open this simple YML file. I don't know, this is a YML file I took from the Kubernetes documentation, right? So let's scan how to scan this. Now you have learned the how to scan the Docker file. So when you scan Docker file, your file is secure. Now you push this image to the Docker Hub or any kind of registry, private, public, or Azure or AWS. Now use that image into your whatever the Kubernetes. So when Kubernetes run this thing, it use the Docker image, whatever you build from using the Docker file, right? So you need to first step is you secure your Docker file. That's fine. Now we move on to the Kubernetes, because underlying the Kubernetes, most of the people use a Docker file or Docker images to as a dependency for, because basically Docker file or Docker is a container, and Kubernetes is a container orchestration, which orchestrates all the container workload, whatever the your Docker containers, or if you are using other container provider. But Docker is one of the leading standard in the industry, and most of the people use that. So let's scan this. So you need to use the command called Terrascan scan, and then -i and Kubernetes. Now Kubernetes or KTS, you can call it anything. Then give a dot if you want to scan a particular directory, and if you want to scan a directory, we have a flag called -t, and then give a dot for the directory. Select the directory which you want to scan. My YML file in kube demo, so I will give that name. So it will scan the file. Okay, you see the bunch of violation here. So we see bunch of violation and the file name, the line which we have, and the is it like low or high, and based on that you can say this is file or this manifest or misconfigured, and then you can secure, and this is a for the Kubernetes. And you can scan, like you can scan Helm chat also, you can scan Terraform, but that is another talk. We will learn more about that in the next Terrascan episodes, and this is going to be most of the episode going to be hands-on, so please join and learn. This is very important if you are making a first contribution or just a learner.
Yeah, and Sangam, you actually brought up a good point. So today we wanted to focus on Docker, obviously with a little bit of time to Kubernetes. I think we all understand why, container registries, etc. But our next episode of Terrascan Talks is going to be all about Kubernetes. It will be everything Kubernetes, and we cannot say that enough. We've got some fantastic features coming in the next version of Terrascan, and so that episode in September is really kind of our precursor episode to KubeCon North America, which happens the first couple of weeks of October. And so Sangam, fantastic work, man. We are excited about Docker support. I know I was excited, as I began to learn that we're going to be introducing Docker support, really just because of your background, your really just your reach in the community, around the Docker community. And so I'm super excited about that.
But I want to talk a little bit about why this is why important. This is a little bit, because if you see before starting off a CNCF or rise of CNCF, Docker already exists before 2014, and that's where I believe a first project that donated into CNCF is a Kubernetes from the Google. And before that, all people using a Docker Swarm as a container orchestration engine and the Docker file. And I say this is one of the basic 101 tutorial, or you can say the learning for if you are jumping into DevOps or the cloud native. You need to learn a Docker file and secure your Docker file, and having the best practices or CSI benchmark. And we have a great security team here at Accurix, and they have written a lot of policies, and you can be a part of it and contribute and learn with a community. And don't miss to join a Discord. I'm there. If you have any query or you want to learn, I'm there.
Absolutely, Sangam. And you know what? I think this is the fun part about Terrascan. A lot of folks see Terrascan and they're like, oh, it's Terraform based. No, ignore the name for a minute. We are focused on pretty much all of the key providers from the infrastructure as code space, the cloud native space, and we want to continue that, right? So
I will say Terrascan is like not about how many features we have, but whatever feature we have, you can add into the pipeline, right?
Absolutely.
And when the pipeline will start with Docker file, then Docker file people, like whatever the image you are pushing into Docker Hub, you can use for the Kubernetes or Argo CD workflow or GitOps, so it can fit into anywhere. So that is the Terrascan anywhere.
Absolutely, agree. And you mentioned the Discord channel, so I just wanted to pop in here real quick. If I'm hosting something, I'm going to end up going away from the original script, so forgive me. So here is the Accurix Discord channel. It's really fresh, really new, and we want the Accurix community. What it obviously is based on Discord. We want the Accurix community really to be just a collaboration for all of your DevOps, DevSecOps, InfoSec, cloud native needs, right? I mean, this is really where we want to come together and partner together with the community and with each and every one of you that's fighting the fight each and every day. And so there's the Discord community. The other thing I would say as you think about the new features and functions that we're delivering is we do plan on. Or excuse me, not only do we plan, but we want your contributions. We want the community to interact. Those policies, whether it's net new policies or if you've found some new tool that needs to be integrated with, right? We definitely want this all to come together. And this is really about you, the community, right? I go back to the very beginning. We didn't get to 2,000 GitHub stars alone. That was a lot of community contribution, a lot of code contribution, and just a significant effort. The other thing that we're starting to see, and I think this is super important, is we're actually starting to see more and more about these tools being brought up in just varying different ways. So I know, Sangam, you talk, you do a lot of meetups, web conferences, etc. But I'm actually gonna highlight something that showed up a few weeks ago, and this will kind of segue. I'll bring in Amir, and we'll have a quick conversation about this. But not too long ago, DEF CON occurred, and at DEF CON, there was a talk that happened, and it kind of raised some kind of questions, concerns, just how these things are happening. And so I'm gonna share my screen real quick, just so we can all see the kind of the tweet that happened. But Gentleman Rotham, he actually presented a talk at DEF CON, and I'll link it in the show notes. Actually talking about abusing SaaS tools, and he does mention Terrascan, and different attack vectors. I mean, this is DEF CON, right? So we kind of understand how the thought process is, and where attackers and hackers and whatever you want to call it can utilize some of these tools. The good part is, especially in this case for Terrascan, it wasn't the attack vector; it was elsewhere. And so, we're excited about not only what we're doing from a Terrascan perspective, code contributions, adding Docker support, new features, and so on. We're excited that the community, in this case, the security community, is jumping in, and I am attempting to, and I would love to see if I could get Rotem on Terrascan Talks. So I will continue to do that. And so, Amir, I'm going to bring you in, and I think for the three of us, let's talk real quick about this DEF CON talk that Rotem had, and from your point of view, give us, I think all of us have seen the video and obviously seen the talk. Kind of tell us a little bit about what you saw from Rotem, and where this fits for Terrascan, and really just the community in general.
So it was a really interesting talk. It talked about how when you have all these SaaS tools running in your pipeline can be abused. We've seen that with CodeCo. That was a pretty well publicized attack. I think one of the things that stood out for me is having policies written in Rego. We still haven't gone that road of seeing what are the RC capabilities of executing Rego code, and I can only assume that there are going to be a few, but that is different from having policies written in Python, which there is we all know how to execute a really severe code in Python. So I think it does go to show that there is some benefit and a security benefit to having a standardized declarative language for policies, which obviously Terrascan and other tools in the ecosystem have, and then it also shows the power of securing your GitHub. Really important.
Yes, absolutely. Saying kind of your thoughts on this. Not only the talk, but just the idea of a tool chain and different tooling, and we're obviously the goal of bringing security into the pipeline is for simplicity, security. But what kind of from your view, as you've had some conversations around this, what are your thoughts on it?
So my thoughts on it, first of all, we use a Rego for the policy. I believe if you see the CNCF landscape, and OPA is one of the leading and one of the incubator project. A lot of people using the Rego. They believe in the Rego, and it's working for everyone, right?
Yep.
And I see some of the people writing policies in JavaScript and this thing, because policy management is the key. How you are managing your policies and how you are delivering this thing. And I see our tool, one of the Kaiman key, and that tool is you can scan up policies for the GitHub, for the AWS or Terraform. It's help you a lot. We launched that tool, I believe, just for the demo, not as open source, and that is adopted by some of the for the demo or and this is one of the thing about the community. And community, open source community is there who innovate, who give the new ideas and collaborate with each other. And I think this is a really good news to like how people are using the community, and this is great.
Awesome. Stangam, I'm gonna say just, man, thank you for the opportunity, or thank you for highlighting Docker and Kubernetes today. And I look forward to the next episode where we dive in a whole lot more into Kubernetes, man. So thank you for joining, and really appreciate the conversation, the demo, and we'll see you on the next episode, sir. Thanks, Sangam. And Amir, that actually is a good segue, right? So Terrascan is growing, it's expanding. Just in version 1.9, we enhanced CloudFormation template support. We enhanced Terrascan support right around pre-commits, and then caching modules locally. We had a Docker file support, and even actually some changes to Helm. So we're adding some new features around the Rego editor, if I haven't heard correctly. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
So actually, when Sangam spoke about, people are using Rego, and it's amazing. And I will say that I think Rego is, once you get a hang of it, I think it is a very straightforward way to write policies. The reason it's been widely adopted. But we have seen, across customers and people that just try it out, is that there is a learning curve there.
Yeah.
A lot more people know Python than they know Rego, and it's not as intuitive as moving from other programming languages. There is I think some sort of a small gap, and that's one of the things that we're trying to do with Rego Editor. We're trying to automate a lot of the basic steps that every person that will want to write a policy for a particular IAC, and we do that in two different ways. One is specifically Terrascan centric. We talk about how Terrascan works, but at the end of the day, Terrascan has a standardized JSON for the IAC types, and then what happens is that either both Terraform or CFTs that represent the same cloud environment, the same cloud resources, they're going to be parsed into that same standardized JSON. Same with Kubernetes, like a Kubernetes YAML and a Kubernetes admission request, they will be standardized into the same. And that's, I think, one of the main differentiators of Terrascan, is that you write the same policies. You write the policies once, and they will work pretty much anywhere. We've seen that. I think it's really easy to see that in Kubernetes, because the same resource, as it goes from being a file to an admission request, it's sort of straightforward that in that process you're going to have, and there are ways in the open source community to do that transformation, but I think Terrascan approach would just work natively out of the box.
You mentioned, I mean, not to summarize, but just for simplicity, right? Earlier I mentioned we support multiple IAC providers, really multiple cloud native providers, if we want to call it that, all the way down to kind of a simplistic view within Terrascan of all of those separate providers around policy, right? Which is specific and I would admit is very difficult. I could sit here all day and be just fine in Terraform or CloudFormation, right? But if I have to jump along and learn a new technology, and I've got to learn this entirely new syntax, right? So we're trying to simplify that.
Yeah.
And then as well, this idea of a Rego editor, and as I mentioned, I am teasing what is coming, but we're actually going to combine Rego editor with Terrascan and VS Code extension for simplification, right? All of those things. So it's just a little bit of tease of what's on the horizon from a Terrascan perspective. So fantastic. Next question I'd have for you, and obviously you mentioned earlier what your role is here at Accurix, and obviously within Terrascan, and you've been instrumental in that over the past 10, 11 months. Where do you see Terrascan within the landscape of Accurix? Or more importantly, how does Terrascan benefit Accurix, right? Terrascan being open source, obviously Accurix having some commercial aspects. How do you see those two working together as kind of the focus of head of open source and focusing on the product here at Accurix? Yeah. Give us a little bit of an idea.
So Terrascan is sort of like the engine. I think in the open source community, it's the Swiss Army knife that we give out. So engineers who want to get involved can use and fit it in their pipelines. You sort of have to understand, how your pipeline works. You have to understand how output types work. Like it's not a hands-off tool.
Yep.
And that allows us to push out features like rapidly that aren't really ready for like a productized environment. Our mission controller, like it's like once integrated, it works really, really well. You can enforce the same set of policies with one Terrascan server across your GitHub, your Argo, and your mission controller. And we've seen customers that do that, and it's pretty much one of the few tools that you can do that today. But when you're selling a commercial enterprise security product to paying customers, that's not how it works. So Terrascan is the engine that our commercial team then uses to productize and build a platform around. That's how I call it.
And what I hear from that, being on the community focus side of things, if somebody says Terrascan everywhere, and I know that's something we at Accurix, that's our mantra now, is Terrascan everywhere. That really sounds like, to me, the community has the opportunity not only to contribute to benefit them on a day in and day out basis, but they can actually have a say in where we're going, whether it's, kind of a simple view of like, hey, here's some new Docker policies, or here's some new AWS policies or Terraform policies, all those different things. But it really, if there's something cool and new, maybe a new integration point, maybe a new provider, right? Hey, throw in an issue, throw in let's write some code together. Whatever it is, create a PR. But we want to bring together the best of the community and do it in that open source fashion, right? That this is helping us, or is helping the community drive Terrascan. And so we want to make sure the community knows that. And so I think that idea, even at Accurix, Terrascan everywhere is important to us. So that's where we see the community as well.
Yeah, we have always been very attentive to our issue tracker on GitHub.
Yep.
That's like we use it to prioritize the tasks. We've added output types based on it. Just it's a really nice way for us to to make sure that Terrascan is integrated in yet another pipeline. Mm-hmm. And all our we use the GitHub project to track our tasks. So
yeah, I know when I was kind of announcing the 2,000 followers, I looked at a lot of the GitHub activity, and I think 6 months, this is just kind of simple stats, right? 6 months, 771 new GitHub stars, almost 1,100 GitHub activities. And this is about a week old, right? So this has actually changed. 78 issues opened, 65 PRs, 50 merged PRs. But if you think about that, like the number of issues and then the number of GitHub activities, which is a combination of comments, commits, etc. Right? We want to be interactive and support the community in that fashion. And that's not only, hey, I have a problem, but more importantly, it needs to be, hey, I want to do this, or can we do this together? And I know just this past week, I was out on holiday, and I just happened to notice in our Discord channel, our Discord server, somebody was like, hey, how do I contribute? How do I create or work with and maybe have a part in the code or documentation? So Amir, give us a little bit of how, obviously we talked a little about the kind of the tooling and semantics, but what are your thoughts on not only, contribution, but really community contribution?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's something that we think Terrascan is really hyped for. Between, how you integrate Terrascan in your specific environment, I think there's a room for, just if a community member just wants to have a small write-up about, hey, this is how I integrated it in this environment. We've seen that with Azure DevOps, which we don't use in Accurix, but a lot of people use Terrascan. Is a good example of that, and I think there are a lot more. The next level would be, hey, if you have a custom policy, submit a pull request. Many other people would probably benefit from your policy. If you submit a pull request, and we will probably approve it. And that's just a really nice way to have like a huge impact.
Absolutely. I know I'll do in the show notes. I'll tie a link to that DevOps, the Azure DevOps article. And we want to know how you're using Terrascan, right? Is it using Circle CI? I had on the last episode, I had Tim from M0, and he just showed you how you use Terrascan with M0, right? Just there's really a lot of ways the community, whether it's open source or maybe even some commercial tooling, right? This is really about the community coming together to solve problems, because we all have unique, but in some ways very similar challenges or issues that we're trying to overcome. Last question for you, Amir. Why, and this is a fun question, but why do we have within Terrascan multiple IAC providers, or why are we focused on multiple cloud native workloads or points of interest? Why multiple, and why not just focus and hone in on one?
I think that the reality is that most environments will have multiple. We've heard from users and commercial customers that they don't use like a single IAC, and they even if they did use like they only use, say, CFT and not Terraform, then they're probably still gonna have other types of IAC, whether it's Docker files or Kubernetes files. So it's pretty much what the market has been telling us, and what we think we're really good at is supporting a variety. I don't think that you have like a SaaS tool that just does like most of the big players do a lot of programming languages. Pretty much the same thing. A lot of the logic is the same. Like our security research group, like the team that writes the policies, they're good at writing policies for multiple IACs. It would be a waste to not have them do Kubernetes policies and Terraform policies and Docker files. So
absolutely. Now, and that's fair. And me personally, I have been a multi-cloud bigot. I would even say that for probably 3 years now, probably almost 4 years now. And to have multi-cloud, multiple DevOps tools, multiple pipelines, right? If you build an application where it should be built, you are going to have multiple IAC providers. You're going to have multiple technology, infrastructure providers, whatever it is. And the simplification of security around that is really what we're here for on the Terrascan side. And so it definitely makes sense. So with that, Amir, I would just say, man, I'm looking forward to what you and the team, just along with Caesar from the last episode, what you're doing, what you're building. If you want to reach out to Amir, right, we can jump on Discord. You can reach out to me, and then we can jump in on a Zoom or a Meet, right? I know the team is actively looking for our customers, looking for our community, looking for the projects. Even if you're new to security or IAC scanning, we want to know how you're using it or would like to use it or potentially use it. So, Amir, thanks for joining us, man. I know you'll be back on an episode at some point in time, but in the background, you're doing a lot of work with the team. And I do hope in the next few episodes to highlight even more folks on the team, as well as the community contribution. So, Amir, thanks for joining us today, and glad to have you, sir.
Thanks for having me. It was really fun.
Awesome, Amir. And the folks I get to work with are just second to none, and I'm thankful for them, thankful for their contributions and work. To close this out, I really have nothing else but to show you once again the latest features from version 1.9, which was just released. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you don't have to see too much of me. But we are excited about 1.9. We're excited about what's coming in the next few releases. So if you have any questions, hey, jump on the Discord channel. I'll share that in the show notes as well. And join us on the website. Check out runterrascan.io. Super, quickest, easiest way to join us. And for that, this is Terrascan Talks, episode 001. Have a great one, everybody, and we will see you in the next episode. Cheers.